dear friends of Maricita Colors in English. Today I have a new knitted pattern. It's this nice baby blanket that I made with squares of knit and purl stitches. And at the end I made the garter stitch in the border. I have here 140 stitches that made 14 squares. You can make this baby blanket of all the size and colors that you prefer. I use for make this blanket 5 balls of 50 grams. In the etiquette say that the yarn is 90% acrylic and 10% polyamide. And they say that I can use the needles number 4. For make the pattern, I will use the same yarn. This is the rest that I use of the 5 balls. And the needles number 4,50 millimeters. I will make 3 squares of 10 stitches, so it's 30 stitches. For calculate, I will involve 30 times the yarn in my needle, on my needle, for calculate the stitches. Here I have 30 times I involve, and from the yarn calculate, I will make the stitches on the needle. I catch the yarn with my fingers and the needle into the center. I bring to the front and from the left to the right on the needle. Here I have 2 stitches. Again, we repeat the needle in the front and from the left to right and in the center. And we pull a little. Like this, I will make 30 squares. "27, 28, 29, and 30 stitches. We turn the knitting work, and here I will begin with the squares. Here I will make 10 knit stitches, 10 purl, and 10 knit stitches. We begin the first stitch from the left to right, the yarn we bring into the center, and this is the first knit stitch. And like this, I will have 10 knit stitches. Puntos derechos en español. Needles, agujas en español. Blanket, colcha en español. Now that I have the 10 knit stitches, I bring the yarn into the front and I will make the purl stitches, 10 purl stitches. The size of my blanket is 70 centimeters of wide and 90 centimeters of long. And here I finish the 10 purl stitches. And again the 10 knit stitches, the yarn into the back, and we make the 10 knit stitches. Punto derecho en español. Knit stitch. Here I will make the last knit stitch. One tip, when the yarn of the begin is in the right side, for me, this is the front of the work. Every square has 12 rows. This is the first. We turn the knitting work, and now I only will make the stitches that we find. Look, the knit stitch in the reverse is the purl stitch, and the purl stitch into the reverse is the knit stitch. From the second row, the first stitch I only pass from the left to the right needle. Here I have the 10 purl stitches and I will make the knit stitch. First I must make the yarn into the back. Now I find the 10 purl stitches, I bring the yarn to the front and I make the 10 purl stitches. Here I finish the 10 purl stitches. I pull a little the yarn for that my border is uniform. We turn the knitting work and you can see the squares of the knit and purl stitches. Now only I will repeat all the stitches that we find. First, the first stitch I pass to the needle of the right and I begin to make the 10 knit stitches, 10 purl and 10 knit stitches. I will make the 12 rows and I will back for show you how I alternate the stitches. I have 11 rows and I will make the last 12 row. Before I change the stitches, I will explain you why I make 12 rows. For that I make one square, I must have the same centimeters or inches into the wide and long. My example here, almost I have 4 centimeters and half, and here too I have 4 centimeters and half. You must calculate this with your yarn and your needle. From here I will change the stitches. Where I find the knit stitches, I will make the 10 purl stitches, and where I find the purl stitches, I will make 10 knit stitches, and I will repeat in all the rows. The first stitch I will pass like purl stitch, and I will make 9 purl stitches. I find the purl stitches and I will make the yarn into the back and I will make the 10 knit stitches. With this little pattern you can calculate how many squares you need for make the size of your blanket that you prefer. Here I find the knit stitches, I bring the yarn to the front, I will make the 10 purl stitches. For finish always I pull the yarn. And look here, you can see the new stitches. We turn the knitting work and I will repeat all the stitches. 10 knit, 10 purl and 10 knit stitches. The first stitch I pass and I begin to make the 10 knit stitches. I turn the knitting work and I am into the front and I have 2 rows of the stitches. I will make 12 rows and I will back for show you how I make the border. I finish the 12th row. This is the front of my work and you can see the little squares. So, like this you will alternate. Where you find the purl, you will make the knit and over the knit you will make the purl stitches. One tip. Look here, the stitches in the border are a little loose because I use the needle number 4,50 millimeters. But this yarn is for use with the needles number 4. If I use a needle number 5, this will be super loose. So you see that this border is so big, you must use a teeny needle. With this pattern, you can calculate how many squares you need for make the width of your blanket. My blanket is 70 centimeters for 90 centimeters of long. I made 14 squares of wide and 20 squares of long. When you have the long that you prefer of your blanket, you will begin with the border. I will use the Garter Stitch, punto Santa Clara or punto bobo en español. The first stitch I pass and I begin to make only knit stitches. The garter stitch is the knit stitch in the front and in the reverse of your work. Now for the reverse, I will make again the knit stitches. You can make the long of the border that you prefer. But remember that you must make the same border, the same rows in the 4 sides. I turn the knitting work and here I have 2 rows of the garter stitch. I will make more rows and I will show you how I close the stitches and I begin to make in the another 3 sides. Almost I finish the 8th row of the garter stitch. I am in the reverse of my work. I only use the knit stitch in both sides. I finish and turn the work. And look, here you can see 4 rows of the purl stitch, but all together are 8. Now I will close the thread. If you want, you can make longer your border. But remember that always you must repeat the same in the 4 sides. The first stitch I pass and I make the knit stitch and let a little loose the stitches and the first goes over the second. Don't tie it because we'll make tight your blanket. One knit stitch and the first over the second. Like this, I will repeat until finish the row. Almost I finished to close all the stitches of the first border. This is the front of my work. And here we finish. Look, it's the front because the right or the yarn of the beginning is in the right side. And from here I will make new stitches. I pass or insert the needle into the thread and I bring the yarn. And here I have 2 stitches. In my border, in my blanket, I have in the border 6 stitches. Look, in this square I have 6 stitches, but in my blanket I made 7 for that my blanket is not tied for the border. So in every square I must have the same numbers. If you have 7 in one square, you must have the same in the others. For that our work is uniform. Here almost I am in the edge. Here I have 6 stitches. And if you see that you have more place, you can make another stitch. And now I will repeat the garter stitch. This is the second row of the garter stitch. I made 8 rows in the first border. Here I have the 8 rows of the garter stitch, punto Santa Clara en español. And you can see here the 8 rows. Look, in the reverse is very nice too, the stitches. Now I will close all the stitches. Remember, make a little loose for that your work is not tight. Now I finish to close all the stitches of the second border. This is very nice. It's optional, the border. Here is more easy because in every square we have the 10 stitches, so here I must have 36 stitches. In my blanket I have in this side 146 stitches because from the border are 6 stitches. Here you can see in the edge that if you can make another stitch is not problem. If you have one more or one less, it's not a problem. And into the edge, I make the last stitch. Return the knitting work, and I begin again with the garter stitch. This is the third border. This is the second row, and now I am in the reverse of my work. Now I have my video advance where I will show you how I close the third side of my blanket. This is the third border. Look, this is my blanket. Here I have 146 stitches. This is the 8th row of the garter stitch. Punto Santa Clara o punto bobo en español. Close the stitches, cerrar los puntos. Here I find the last two stitches and only I make the knit stitch. Return the knitting work, and you can see here in the front the 4 rows of the garter stitch. Altogether are 8 rows, remember. Here I will start to close all the stitches like I showed you before. The first stitch we pass, we make the knit stitch. We let a little loose the work, and the first goes over the second stitch. Here almost I close the third border of my blanket. Here I make the last stitch, and I will start to make again the last border. In this video I made 4 stitches for the border, but at the end I changed and I made 6 stitches for that the work was not tied. And in every square I made 7 stitches. The important is that you notice that your border don't close your blanket. You can have filage or maybe more stitches, all depend of your yarn and needles too. Almost I finish the row and I find another border, so I must make the 6 stitches again. In this video I made the 4, but like I told you, I have at the end 6 stitches. I turn the work and only I will begin with the garter stitch in my last 4th border of my blanket. Like this I will make the 8 rows of the garter stitch. Almost I finished the 8th row of the garter stitch. This is the 4th side of my blanket. We turn the knitting work. And look, this is the front. I close the stitches in the front of my work. And here I begin to close all the stitches. Almost I finish my blanket. I pass the first stitch over the second. And here I will cut the yarn and we will close the work. I will let a little yarn for close good my work. I open a little the last stitch and the yarn pass into the last stitch and we pull a little and ready. We have our beautiful baby blanket. Now only you must sew the yarns in the reverse of your work. And we have ready our beautiful knitted baby blanket. It's very nice and easy to make. Before I finish this video, I want to invite you to subscribe here in my channel, Maricita Colors in English. It's total free. Remember, activate the bell for that you receive the post when I have a new video here in my channel. You can find me too in Facebook and in Instagram. Thank you very much to all the persons that always comment, share, and give one like to my videos. We see us in my next crochet or knitting pattern. Chao, chao. Muchas gracias, amigos. Hasta la vista.